Hi, thanks for dropping by. This is a cloud tutorial for Photoshop. Now, the current version of Photoshop is CS6. This isn't that. This is Photoshop 7. It's about 10 years old, but I don't think anyone with a newer version of Photoshop will be handicapped in any way. Right, I'm just going to start a new file here. I'm going to call it Render Clouds. For reasons I'll go into later. I'm going to start with a square image. It doesn't have to be square. Any size image will do. You may have to tweak some of your settings later, but bear with me on that. Right. Oh, white background, that's nice. Okay, I've got a square image here, which will allow me to create a cloud that I can then drag and drop into something else. Probably the best way to work is to create the clouds in isolation from the image that you're wanting to put them into. To start off with, I'll just make sure I've got black foreground, white background, and go up to Filter, Render, and oh look, they've got a clouds option. I'll click on that, and oh dear, that doesn't look like clouds, it looks like fog. Now, you didn't come here to learn that that was how to create clouds. What I need to do, however, is save this for a displacement filter later on. Now, it's called Render Clouds. It's going to be a PSD file, Photoshop data file. Save that. Later versions of Photoshop, it may not matter, but that PSD file is important for the displacement filter later on. Okay, we've got Render Clouds. I'm just going to chuck that now. Let's not quite chuck it, but let's just make it a nice sky color to start with. Edit, fill, foreground color. Okay. Let's get a new layer, empty layer, transparent layer. I'm going to call this my cloud, because I like to name my layers. Make sure it's active. And what do we need to do now? Oh, we want a bit of white. Now, in that transparent layer, I'm going to use my lasso tool. Some people call it lasso. Is it lasso or lasso? I don't know. And just do a very rough cloud shape. Whatever you think is roughly the cloud you want. And then I'll go up to Edit, Fill. Oh, my foreground's white, but I'll just click white there, and there you go. Not much like a real cloud, more like a little cardboard cutout, but bear with me on this. I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow in for definition as well. Let's go up to Select and Deselect, or Control D. I'd advise people use the keyboard as much as they can, but you can't see me doing that, so I'll use the menus. Choose a grey, could be mid-grey, maybe less. Might try black one day, but grey for now is fine. And again, using the lasso tool, I'll just do a very rough modeling shadow. Eee. Just to get a sense of a three-dimensional cloud. Well, that's the highlight anyway. I'll go to Edit, Fill, foreground color this time. Wallop, and then I'll go up to Select and Deselect to empty that. Again, still a bit of a cardboard cutout. Let's go to our Filter menu and choose Blur. My favorite blur, of course, is Gaussian blur. Now, oh, don't know what I've been doing, but it's set up at 100 pixels. Now, we don't want fog. Let's just crank this back down. I think about 10 or 15 pixels of Gaussian blur will be fine. Oh yeah, it won't update until I let go of the button or the slider. There it is. Okay. Oh, that's nice and fuzzy. Okay, looking a bit more like a cloud. Let's just click OK on that. So that's done. Now is the real business part. We want to go to Filter. Actually, before I do this, I've just noticed this is still called Render Clouds. PSD. Let's just file, save as my cloud, to make sure we don't do anything silly like overwriting what we need. You'll see render clouds is still up there as our rendered cloud fog. I'm going to save this as my cloud PSD, and I'll go to filter, distort, and here is the displace filter. Now I click on that and it's giving me an option for a horizontal scale and a vertical scale. They default to 10%. We need it to be a bit more than that. I'm just going to hit wrap around there as well. It won't make a lot of difference in this instance, but I like to do it by habit. Right, horizontal scale, we'll go for 50%, and vertical scale, let's go for 40. Play around with these, but it says percentage here. I'm not convinced of that, because if I was working on a bigger image, I'd need to use a bigger setting. Percentage of what? I don't know. I suspect that might be relative to some mathematical calculation done invisibly in the background. I'll show you why. Actually, let me do this. 150%. Why not just wallop it up to there? I don't know what the top limit is. Maybe you can experiment with that at the moment. I'm going to click OK. And it's giving me the option to choose a displacement map. And that's what our render cloud is for. Now, a displacement map is a tonal image. We looked at horizontal and vertical scale. Anything darker than mid-grey and black will displace related pixels in your final image to the right or down. Paler pixels or white pixels in your displacement image will displace pixels in your original image to the left or up. Okay. So I'll double click on that and bingo. Maybe that 150 was a bit too much. I'll just undo that, Control Z, and do that again. Filter, distort, displace. Let's go down to just the 50 there on the horizontal scale. And click on OK again. Gives us the option of choosing that again, and yeah, that looks a bit nicer. Good luck with your work. Thanks for listening.